Yo guys, what is up? Max on our Borderlands 4 video, and today we're going over my guide to Vex. Now this is going to be a leveling guide, but it's also a build that you can use to push deep into the end game. Vex is genuinely one of the strongest characters in the game. She is an incredibly easy time leveling, where her clones or specters that you can summon will pretty much carry you from level 2 all the way to level 50. They stay out even when you travel around, so you can put them in an area that has a lot of enemies and just go do something else, and they will just farm for you. She's one of the fastest farmers. She does a ton of boss damage. She's really good, and today we'll be breaking down everything you need to know about her leveling progression and setting up a really powerful build for her. Hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's get right into it. We're going to do big picture first. What is the build going to look like once you start putting it together? And then we'll break down the different pieces to get you there. So to start, this is going to be a status effect Spectre build, and you can use this from level 1 all the way to level 50. Now, in Vex's blue tree, she has the Dead Ringer action skill, which allows you to spawn phase clone minions. It's important to understand that these scale off of increases to minion damage, but they also scale off of increases to action skill damage, and if you spec them properly, you can get them scaling off of status effect damage really well. Now, when you're using this skill, the Reaper are going to be moving around, and they're a little bit tankier. They taunt enemies and deal melee attack damage. The Spectres, you just have to leave them in place. They are going to get a gun that they shoot. They deal a ton of damage, and this isn't action skill duration based. It's health lost based. So every second, these Spectres are going to lose an ever-increasing amount of health, meaning that when they die, they can either go away by an enemy just hitting them and they lose all their health, or eventually they will just keep increasing their health that they're taking, and they'll eventually go away. So keeping them up is going to be really important, because early on, it's on a decent cooldown. It's a 35-second cooldown, and that is per Spectre. It's not 35 seconds, you get all of them back. When you cast a Spectre, you gotta wait 35 seconds to cast that one again. The gameplay playstyle of this is basically you just putting down your Spectres, and then you shooting at enemies. Your Spectres are gonna be going ham, and there's some things that you can do while you're playing to buff them up, mainly using ordnance like throwing knives and using your rep kits, which we'll explain, but it's a very laid-back playstyle. So now we're gonna do kind of a step-by-step leveling progression. Now, I, in testing, found that Dead Ringer is her best early action skill. Trouble's actually pretty good. Incarnate's quite awkward to use until later on. We'll have builds for Trouble and Incarnate later, but we're really focusing on her best leveling build, which I think is absolutely Dead Ringer. Now, of your starting skills, we've got Sanguine Fiends and Cold Iron, really, to pick from, which gives you more gun damage, your minions more gun damage. I think Sanguine Fiends is a must. We're going to put 5 points here. Every time that your minions or you get a kill, you're going to restore 20% of your health and also 20% of your minions' health. I know it's very tempting to take this gun damage, but I promise you the damage uptime that you get from having all of your summons active, this is you get a kill and all of your summons restore 20% of the health. It's just fantastic for keeping them up at all times. Now, when you're playing these, it's not important to get this Portents of Suffering next. Vex and her minions gain increased status effect damage. This is going to be something that we respec into later, but for right now, we're going to go Grave Assault. Vex and her minions gain increased fire rate for a duration. Fire rate is a huge way to scale up these minions. This is really nice. Then we're going to go put into Blood Sacrifice. This gives us kill skills whenever a minion dies. That means whenever a minion dies, we're also going to get our minions to heal and also give us and them more fire rate. Feels really nice. And then we're going to put 4 points into Grave Quickening. This is going to give us action skill cooldown rate. Now, from here, you have a bit of an option. And I don't think there's really a bad way to go. It kind of depends on your weapons. If you have some good elemental weapons, Prismatic Ichor, in my opinion, is probably her strongest skill in the game. It is disgusting how much damage you can get out of this. This and Bleed together are so gross. We'll talk about that in a second. But for now, we're going to ignore Prismatic Ichor and work down this right tree to put Prismatic Weaponry. This is Vex and her Spectres deal bonus damage with gun critical hits. The bonus damage is a random elemental type that changes on reload. Bonus damage is further increased for each active attunement skill. So this means that you and your Vectors, or your Spectres, get 30% bonus damage on crits And if you're attuned to different elements, you're going to be getting a 50% increase on that, which is really, really strong for 5 points. However, it's going to be really important that you're using the Coven Augment at this time. Coven, whenever you give spawn a Spectre, is going to give you 10% minion crit chance, or 10% crit chance. And if you spawn 3 Spectres, this is all of a sudden 30% crit chance, which allows this to proc. Otherwise, this really isn't going to be procking all that often. So you have to be using Coven at this point. Prior to that, you can be using Gas Blast for the flat damage, but once you get down here, you really want to start using the Coven for stacking prismatic weaponry. For your next points, you have an option between speccing into Ancient Rites or Obedient Fiends. Obedient Fiends is going to give you, at 5 out of 5, 35% increased minion damage, command skill damage, and minion skill damage, which is fantastic. Or Ancient Rites, which at 5 stacks, or at full, is going to give you a maximum of 40% increased minion damage. But you can lose those stacks, and you're like, yeah, they need to build up over time. So, like, you could go Ancient Rites here because we don't have good, like, minion skill damage or command skill damage yet. But you're going to respec out of Ancient Rites, so it just makes the most sense to put into Obedient Fiends. This is massive bang for your buck for 5 out of 5 points. Then we're going to put Diner. Dead Ringer gains an extra charge. This gives you a whole lot more uptime on your minions. And then we get Dark Pact. Now, Dark Pact is goated. This allows you to equip 2 augments, which we're going to be going for Coven plus Wither. Wither gives us a minion skill, which casts Wither, which deals status effect damage over time, which we're going to be scaling, and increases damage taken. It's 30% damage taken. Killing a withered enemy allows your specters to use Wither again, so just fantastic. And we can use that with Dark Pact. The other thing that Dark Pact is going to allow us to do is it's going to give us a command skill where we can press and hold F while a minion is active to fully restore the health of all of your clones, as well as granting increased movement speed and minion attack speed. So now your minions are going to be shooting 30% faster, and you're going to be healing all of them, which is really nice. And phase clones do not lose health over time while Dark Pact is active, and health loss is reset when Dark Pact ends, meaning that they're basically unkillable. They can still die to enemy damage, but they're not losing the health drain, so they're pretty tanky during this. So that is fantastic. Now at this point is where you're going to want to do a little bit of a respec, not a respec, but you're going to want to put 5 points into Prismatic Ichor. This is going to give you tons of elemental status effect damage. This allows, this reads, when Vex or her minions apply a status effect, apply another random elemental status effect. Note that this is 150% of the initial, so you're going to get more status effect damage out of this, but this cooldown is per damage source, meaning that if you are shooting your gun, you can only proc this every 2 seconds, but each Spectre can only proc this every 2 seconds. But when you've got 3 Spectres up and you shooting, each of you are on your own individual cooldown, meaning this stacks so many status effects so quickly. It is absurd how much damage this node leads. And because of that, we're going to respec these points, or well, I guess I should do it here. We're going to swap the fire rate nodes back into Portents of Suffering, which gives us that 35% status effect damage, which is going to be a huge damage increase from Prismatic Ichor. Now here's where the build really comes together. Note that there is a node here called Keen Suffering, which gives your status effects the chance to critical hit. We're going to not need this, which I'll explain in a second. We're actually going to go over to Green Tree now and pick up 3 points into your rep kit cooldown. Now, I'll explain why rep kits are so important in a second, but put 3 points there. You could put 2 points into anything else. I personally just go for more crit damage and gun handling, which is pretty nice. And then we get the big node, which is Bloodletter. Gun and skill critical hits have a chance to apply bleed, causing kinetic status effect damage over time for a duration. Bleed is affected by status effect application chance, and itself is considered a status effect. This is where the build really comes together. If you wanted to get this node earlier for your Dead Ringers, you definitely could, but they do so much damage without it. But once you get Bloodletter online with the synergy of having your Dead Ringers doing a bunch of damage, doing bonus elemental damage, plus Prismatic Ichor, where the bleeds, which are non-kinetic, which are going to be stacking up, can then each individually proc more dots on enemies, the dot damage just gets absurd. And then we've got 8 more points. We're going to put 3 of those points into Fiendish Invigoration. Notice that we lost our fire rate on our kill skill. However, this, with our current class mod, is another 42% fire rate for your minions and yourself, and 42% movement speed. It lasts 10 seconds, and you can get rep kits that are on like 9-second cooldowns. So this is a huge buff, and we're going to need guns and needles to get that rep kit up. I'll explain. There's more things why our rep kits are going to be insane with this build, but this is really, really good. And then these last 5 points, you could technically put anywhere. You could go into more stacking kill skills, which is very nice. This doesn't really do anything because it's only just for Vex. It would be a little bit more damage for boss killing. You could put them into Ancient Rites for some more damage. There really is a lot of options. Personally, I'm going to put those last 5 points into Burning Attunement. These, whenever you're attuned to Incendiary, you get increased, you and your minions get increased crit damage, which is huge, and more status effect application chance, which gives our minions a higher chance to proc bleeds. And we want these to stack because they can stack up to 20 times. And so all you need to do is you cast one of your minions as a fire one, and that is going to give you this attunement. But by speccing Burning Attunement, we also get our attunement to last longer than our action skill. So we're getting that attunement up past casting, which is going to help with prismatic weaponry, getting this bonus damage multiplier to have more active attunements up at the same time. Now, the only reason to ever change this like order of specking for leveling that I just showed you is if you come across a penetrator knife. Now, this penetrator augment damage to the impacted targets or critical hits for 5 seconds is incredibly strong for single target damage. You basically throw this and you and your minions will guarantee crit for 5 seconds on that enemy, meaning your damage will crit, but also your status effects will crit. That's why we're not specking into the status effect thing. But if we note at Bloodletter can only proc off of crits. And obviously, with our like setup with Coven, our minions are basically going to have a 30% crit chance. The damage increase of this having a 100% increase crit chance with the knife, and the amount of bleeds that 3 minions can proc and you shooting at an enemy just becomes absurd, because you go from like, you know, the minions having a 30% chance to basically the minions having a 100% chance to crit, which procs bleeds like crazy. So if you do come across a knife that has the penetrator augment, it changes this build a little bit. You're just going to want to rush to get bleed first, and then go just follow the like normal skill tree pattern that I showed you. The reason I'm not like basing that off of this is this penetrator augment seems very rare. In my time leveling to 50, I only saw 2 knives with this. Like I've been level 50 for a really long time. I've never found a level 50 one. I found this one at 47. So I didn't want to like base the build off of it. But if you do find one of these, it's a total game changer. It'll massively increase your damage. Now for class mods, you really have 3 options, which are all pretty good. The first is the Medical Commander. I really, really like this one. It may seem a bit unconventional, but this will give you a massive fire rate boost and movement speed boost to you and your companions or your minions. And we've spec'd into rep kit cooldown, so we can have this bonus up a lot. This is a huge damage increase for them. And it also puts points into infusion, which whenever we use our rep kit, our companions and us gain bonus elemental damage based on your current attunement. So for 15 seconds, which this lends to 100% uptime, you and your companions are just dealing a massive amount of bonus damage. If you could find 5 out of 5 points into this, this would be nutty. And so that's what I was using for most of my time playing. If you can find one of these rep kit things, it's just really nice. You do want to pair it with like a low cooldown rep kit. Look for something that's like around or slightly under like 10 seconds. And you can also roll Accelerator on your rep kit so that you can get 100% skill cooldown rate for 6 seconds. And this is like on an 8-second cooldown. So you can keep that up a whole bunch. I used this one a lot with Leech for extra survivability and rep kit cooldown. This one was on a 9-second cooldown. This one felt really, really great. And the other class mods to look out for are Alchemist class mods. Now, these can spec points mainly into Prismatic Ichor. Now, all of our status effects, whenever they proc, we get another status effect procking of 210% of the initial status. So these like Alchemist class mods lend themselves to a lot of damage. And for bossing, specifically, I think her highest damage one for bossing is actually going to be ones that spec into Bloodletter. I don't use these as much for like mobbing, but specifically for single target, if you can find something that gives you extra points into Bloodletter and you throw that throwing knife at an enemy to guarantee tons of bleeds on them with all of your specters shooting at them, these are going to give you huge bleed procs, which will then proc higher prismatic ichors, which just leads to ridiculous single target damage. So you have options. Just keep an eye out for like good passives on them as well. The two passives that matter the most for this build are status effect damage and action skill cooldown rate. If you can find a class mod with both of those, you're chilling. In terms of the rest of the gear, there's a super easy shield to farm from the very first boss in the game called the Fireworks. This reads, on kill spawns missiles that home in on nearby enemies and deal a flat amount of damage. This is a ton of damage, and it procs off of your minions killing things. So all of a sudden, now your minions are firing missiles at enemies, and these can actually proc status effects, which is really cool. They'll proc a status effect in the elemental resist of the shield, so these missiles will deal cryo damage. Where to farm this is... from the very, very first boss in the game, you basically spawn down here when you're starting out, and this boss is right over here called Splash Zone. The Fireworks Shield is a dedicated drop from them. In terms of the like enhancement that you use, I mainly just used a legendary Jacob's one. These are very rare. Jacob's weapons feel really great, so I use those a lot, and you could get like ricochets on them, which feels nice for AoE clear. The other one that you can look out for are Malawan. Things like Transfuser on kill. Guns with Malawan license parts spread their active status effect up to 3 nearby enemies. This one's pretty nice. The bonus elemental Malawan is also pretty nice. Guns with Malawan license parts deal 10% bonus damage from the inactive mode's element. If you get a Malawan with 2 elements, you're firing fire and have shock on the other thing, you'll get that bonus damage, which is just nice quality of life. Jacob's and Malawan enhancements are going to be the two best that I'd look out for. Lastly, for guns and weapons, you don't need to shoot all that much, really, but when you are going to be shooting, it's most likely going to be at tankier targets like elites or badasses. So what you want to keep an eye out for, in my opinion, is the Dullahan Jacobs shotgun. These can roll with spread launchers, which do a ridiculous amount of damage and can proc bleeds. This alone, without even your minions on this setup, will pretty much one-shot most bosses, just with the bleed that it can proc. The other thing that I really liked is the Malawan shotguns that roll with Beam Tosser. These usually roll really high dot values, so they're nice for that. But the Beam Tosser roll will just delete enemies. So if you can find some good underbarrels, that's great. It's going to allow you to pump out damage, even though we're mainly spec'd into like minion stuff. Guys, that's going to do it for the leveling guide. I hope you enjoyed. I will catch y'all in the next one. Take care. Peace. Guys, that's going to do it for the leveling guide. I hope you enjoyed. I will have a like planner down below if you want to take a look at it. Over on Maxroll, we've also got a written leveling guide. It's written by not me, so it does a different spec. But if you follow a written format better than a video format, I'll have that linked in the description as well. I will catch y'all in the next one, guys. Take care. Bye.